What is up, Pats Nation? It's Pages Global back here with another video, and in this one we are going to be talking about 5 under-the-radar players that the New England Patriots could sign in a couple weeks heading into free agency. Now, as we all know, Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they're very common for bringing in no-name guys, turning them into star players, or revamping players' careers. For example, the Patriots did this with Chris Hogan, they did this with Danny Amendola, they did it with so many guys. Even most recently, they revamped Jamie Collins' career. But just looking at the fact that currently, without making any other moves, the New England Patriots are going to sit at about $41 million in available cap to make moves such as re-signing key players, making trades, draft, and making signings that are in free agency. So the 5 guys on these lists are most likely guys that you have not heard about. Some you might know about, but they are not going to be top tier players that you're like, oh, of course I know who that guy is. You know, it's not like OBJ or Amari Cooper or anything like that. Now, the first player on this list is going to be a defensive lineman and a defensive tackle in Michael Brockers. Now, Brockers is a veteran in the NFL. He's 29 years old, and he's a big defensive tackle. Some actually considered him a defensive end, but looking at the history of what he's played for the Los Angeles Rams, and looking at, if the Patriots were to sign him, what he would most likely be playing, it would be defensive tackle, but he does have that versatility. But again, a big guy, 6'5", 305 pounds. He was actually drafted all the way back in 2012 by the Rams. He was actually considered one of the best defensive tackles in that draft class and was selected in the first round by them. Now, Brockers has done some pretty good things here in the NFL. Now, he's not a huge first-round pick. In fact, I would say that they pushed a little, and him being one of the best defensive tackles in that draft class, I wouldn't say necessarily translated here into the NFL. In his first year back in 2012 with the Rams, he played in 13 games in which he had a forced fumble, a pass defended, and 4 sacks. The following year, he had 5.5 sacks. This past year, he appeared in all 16 games and had 1 pass defended with 3 sacks, 63 total tackles, which is actually a career high for him. 3 tackles for loss and 9 quarterback hits. Since joining the league in 2012, he has a total of 23 career sacks, 344 tackles, 43 tackles for loss, and 52 quarterback hits. So when you look at the stats for Brockers, he is going to be more of a pass rush type of defensive tackle. Now, he is a big guy, so he is going to be able to stuff the run, but he's not going to be like some of the other guys on the open market, where their main purpose and their big cup of tea is going to be stopping the run. Brockers definitely has the ability to do so, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's seasons where he's had, 8 tackles for loss on the season, 7 tackles for loss on the season, but his statistics really show up when it comes to getting to the quarterback, which of course the New England Patriots could use at the defensive tackle position. Their best defensive tackle at actually getting to the quarterback has been Adam Butler. Adam Butler is a restricted free agent for the Patriots. Who knows if the Patriots are going to be able to get him back in free agency or not. I personally think they will if they decide to go that route, but again, he is still a free agent, so you never know. You also have Danny Shelton. He really stepped up for the Patriots this past season, but he performed so well. There are a lot of teams talking about him, so the Patriots very well could get outbid and will be looking for new defensive tackles. And Brockers definitely could be on the lower budget side for the Patriots. He isn't a guy that you're going to have to pay, $8 to $10 million a year on. Now, he's definitely not a guy where you're just going to be able to pay 1 or 2 on a cheap deal, but he's not going to be a tremendous, out of the park signing when it comes to going against your cap. All in all, he's a guy that will be able to get the job done both in getting to the quarterback and stopping the run, and I think that he would be a really great addition next to a guy like Lawrence Guy. Now, the next guy on my list is going to be someone that the New England Patriots do have some familiarity with. This is going to be wide receiver Breshad Perriman, and the reason that the New England Patriots are somewhat familiar with him is because a couple of years ago, they actually brought him in for a free agent visit. Of course, nothing actually ended up happening. He never actually signed with the Patriots, but of course, they do still have a bit of an idea of what he's able to bring because they had a chance to get some one-on-one with him. To go along with that, obviously the New England Patriots did have some interest in him for them to actually bring him in for a workout. Now, he is actually still pretty young. He's just 26 years old. He was drafted back in 2015 in the first round by the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be a big target for Tom Brady or whoever the quarterback is, sitting at 6'2", 209 pounds. And he's a guy that's also going to bring some speed to the Patriots offense. He definitely was a bust for the Baltimore Ravens. Being selected in the first round, there was a lot of expectations on him, and he definitely failed to do that. The Ravens actually let him walk after his 4th year on his rookie contract. A big thing that plagued him here was injuries. He was dealing with a lot of consistent injuries, which kept him out for a while. After his time with the Baltimore Ravens, he went and signed with the Cleveland Browns in 2018, where he caught just 16 passes, but for 340 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 21.3 yards per catch. Of course, that did not last too long because during the 2019 offseason, he went and he signed with the Tampa Bay Bucks, where he definitely started to show some signs of that first-round pick. He ended up recording highs in receptions with 36, also in receiving yards with 645, and also had 6 touchdowns while he averaged 17.9 yards per catch. Now, Perriman is definitely the type of guy who is more of a vertical threat. He's someone who's going to stretch the field. He's going to give you the guy who brings speed and a threat when you're looking down the field, okay? He's not going to be a guy that Bill Belichick and company can just expect to run short intermediate routes and just easy dump-offs with. That's not going to go down well with him, and I promise you that he's not going to perform well, if at all, for you if you're going to try to do that with him. Now, you could try to do some jet sweeps, things that we've seen them do with guys like Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, and guys like Cordero Patterson. Also, I think that'd be a really good idea because of his speed. But again, that main purpose is going to be that deep threat. If you look at his statistics, like I mentioned before, averaging 17.9 yards per catch, 21.3 yards per catch. He's going to be a guy that moves the chains, but a guy that moves the chains because you have to throw the ball deep to him. Now, due to all the receivers hitting the open market, all of the top tier wide receivers hitting the open market, I don't see Breshad Perriman having to break bank, especially when you look at his past history. So I think that the New England Patriots should get him, or could get him, for a bit of a bargain. Now, I'm not talking about just a couple million. I think they're going to have to spend at least $4 million on him, at least for a year. But again, if Breshad Perriman wants to get the best out of him, why not go to the Patriots, where again they thrive at restarting someone's career? Now, next up is probably one of my favorites, and that's going to be linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski. I actually thought about making just a whole video just on him, but I thought that it would make more sense to put him in this one. I also thought about including him in a video that I thought about making, which would be some linebackers that the Patriots could look into in case they lose Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins. Now, if that's a video you guys are interested in seeing, some linebackers that the Patriots could grab in free agency, let me know in the comments below, and I'll make an entire video dedicated to that. But really, this would be the perfect signing for the New England Patriots, especially because he's a guy that truly excels in pass coverage. Now, he is still fairly young. He is about 26. He was selected in the 4th round by the Chicago Bears back in 2016. So he has about 4 years of experience, just coming off the final year of his rookie deal. Pretty big linebacker, sits at 6'2", 242 pounds. In 2019, he appeared in 16 games where he had 68 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 26 run stops. He was also 25 out of 34 in coverage. He allowed 203 yards, 1 touchdown, but also had an interception and 3 pass breakups. Now, to me, he's a guy that has so much upside and so much potential going forward. Now, his statistics, to me personally, definitely do not show his ability because he didn't get the amount of playtime that I would say he would get with a team like the Patriots due to the deep linebacker depth that Chicago had, and him being a 4th-round pick, he kind of just got pushed down. Like I mentioned before, he really excels in pass coverage. Really, during his time with the Bears, it's what they asked him to do, and obviously it's worked out for him because he's one of the best in the league at actually doing so. And if you look at the New England Patriots, and if they were to lose Jamie Collins, they were to lose Kyle Van Noy, then they're kind of up there with some struggles because Dante Hightower, he's not good in coverage. If they were to get a Landon Roberts, not good in coverage either. And personally, I don't think we have seen enough from a guy like Juwan Bentley to really say that he's a guy we can rely on in coverage. And when I say his main cup of tea is going to be in pass coverage, that does not mean that he doesn't do anything in stopping the run. He definitely is good in stopping the run. Overall, he's a very good put-together type of linebacker, and his game as a whole is very physical. He's not afraid to get into dirty areas, and he plays, again, very solidly against the run. I wouldn't say he's elite, but he definitely plays solid. Now, he's a guy I definitely expect to get some looks around the NFL, but not a guy that I would say is going to be too expensive. He's definitely looked at as a starter throughout the league, but he's not going to get crazy money again, especially with the other linebackers expected to hit free agency. They're going to get more looks than a guy like him is going to. To me, this would be just a very classic Bill Belichick move, bringing in a solid mid-tier linebacker and him kind of just flourishing from there on out. He's the type of guy that I would like to see the Patriots sign long-term and not just sign for 1 to 2 years. And even if the Patriots were to lose just one of their free agent linebackers, whether that's they lose Jamie Collins or whether that's they lose Kyle Van Noy, I would still really like for them to bring him in. The New England Patriots had a really good linebacker group last year, arguably the best in the NFL, and it really served them extremely well with their defense last season. They really made a lot of plays, getting to the quarterback, also playing in coverage. They even helped out at special teams. And as Pats fans, I think we can all agree that we've seen times where the Patriots have not had good linebackers, and we just saw them getting destroyed in the middle of the field, so I really hope that this is a guy that they look into. As for anyone who's interested in hearing what type of cost he's expected to get, his projected cost is expected to be anywhere between $4 to $6 million a year. Now, next up, I have a wide receiver in Kendrick Bourne. Now, this is basically the classic Bill Belichick signing, and this is the perfect Patriots signing. To me, this is definitely one of the biggest targets that I think that the Patriots should look into this offseason, just because of how much he fits the Patriots bill, and you'll get what I mean by the end of me talking about him. But he played for the 49ers, so he has a lot of experience. Of course, he has some Super Bowl experience, some playoff experience, so that's always good to have. He was an undrafted kid out of Washington back in 2017. He's very, very young. He has 3 years of experience in the NFL. He is still just 24 years old, and he's going to bring a bit of a bigger target here for the Patriots. Sits at 6'1", 205 pounds, so he's not going to be Gronk level, okay? He's not 6'3", but again, 6'1" is still going to bring some better height than the New England Patriots currently have on the depth chart. In 2019, he appeared in a total of 19 games with 53 targets on 36 receptions with 446 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns, and he also had a PFF run blocking grade of 47.5. And statistically, this wasn't even his best season. In 2018, he actually had 66 targets on 42 receptions for 487 yards and 4 touchdowns. The great thing about him is that he keeps the chains moving, okay? In his rookie season in 2017, he had 16.1 yards per reception. 2018, 11.6. This past season in 2019, he had 11.9 yards per reception. He's also a guy who's going to bring that personality trait to the locker room that you just love seeing with the New England Patriots. A lot of people call him, the dog mentality, the swagger mentality. He loves having fun with his teammates both on and off the field. He loves getting lit, and he's a big social media guy. So if you love seeing those players super hype, let's say guys like Gronk, Chase Winovich, Martellus Bennett, those types of guys, then you are going to love Kendrick Bourne. It's also said that his touchdown celebrations are pretty dang interesting. Now, Bourne is a guy who is considered a very reliable target with very good hands, who is able to make plays when the ball is actually put in his hands, which is something that the Patriots need, especially if Tom Brady is going to come back. They need a guy who has reliable hands, because the Patriots were, I believe, the third-ranked team in the most drops last season, but this guy has a great combination of size, athleticism, and again, just reliable hands. What I think would make him the perfect signing for the New England Patriots this offseason is the fact that he thrives in those short routes, crossovers through the middle of the field, stuff like that. The type of thing that the New England Patriots love to run. He's not a guy who's going to beat you with his speed. He's not a guy that is considered a deep threat. He's good at the little dump offs, the short intermediate routes, which again, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the Patriots offense, that's what they've been circled around for many, many, many years, and it's how they get the job done. And really, if you look at last season, that's what the Patriots were trying to get out of their players, but the problem is that they had too many players that did not fit that bill. The good thing about him is that the Patriots would be getting a pretty good route runner. He makes super quick, sharp, violent cuts, kind of like a Julian Edelman. He's also a very slippery guy who can beat press coverage just because he's one of those guys who's very tough to cover. He's also a guy who is very willing to run block. Now, that's not necessarily saying he's great at it. I'm not going to come in and say he's going to be a Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry type guy, but he's very willing to do so and very willing to learn how to do it better. Like I previously mentioned, he isn't a guy who's going to be super fast. He's not going to beat you with his speed. He's not going to be a downfield threat, but that's okay because the Patriots already have enough of those guys on their team. And let's remember that that's not what the New England Patriots system is really built around. His snaps were also split about 50-50 for his routes ran, especially because he was mainly put in the slot. Now, he was also put on the outside. He got some good production, some good looks there, but he played a lot out of the slot. In general, the guy just makes plays no matter where he is. Not saying that he does it at an elite level, but he truly does get the job done. And to me, he would just be one of those players that goes off for the Patriots. Kind of just one of those, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan type of players. Something else that is really interesting about him is that of his 36 receptions that he had last season, 34 of them went for either a first down or a touchdown. That means just 2 of those receptions either weren't a touchdown or weren't a catch for the first down. So clearly that just shows the guy's a playmaker and he's going to be able to keep the ball moving, keep the chains moving, which is what the Patriots struggled with so bad last season. The other reason that I think Bill Belichick would really like him is the fact that he played a lot on special teams with the 49ers. Now, he didn't play as a returner. He really mainly played at covering punts and kicks, but in the end, he just keeps bringing value. Now, the only tough part about this is the fact that he's a restricted free agent and not an unrestricted free agent, meaning that he's going to be harder to sign. Now, if the San Francisco 49ers decide to put a second-round tender on him, then quite honestly, the Patriots are not going to get him. I guarantee you they're not going to pursue him. They're not going to give up a second-round pick for this guy, nor do I believe any other team would. But if they place the original round tender on him, then the Patriots would be perfectly fine because let's remember he was undrafted, so the Patriots would not have to give up any draft capital in order to sign him. Now, my personal ideal signing for him would be about a 3-year deal worth between 10 to 15 mil. And next up on this list is going to be another linebacker. This time it's going to be the former Jets linebacker in Brandon Copeland, another guy that the Patriots actually have some experience with. If we do remember, I believe it was last offseason, the Patriots actually had some interest in him as a free agent before, of course, he went to re-sign with the Jets. He is going to be a bit of an older guy, especially compared to everyone else. He has about 7 years of experience in the NFL, so the Patriots would be getting more of a veteran. 6'3", 263 pounds, so again, a pretty big linebacker sitting at 28 years old. In 2019, he appeared in 12 games with 35 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 3 hurries, 1 forced fumble, and 22 run stops. So he's going to be more of your run stopping type of linebacker, more of that trying to get to the quarterback type of linebacker. And I'm going to admit this past season for Brandon Copeland definitely was not very well. He originally entered the league in 2013, and he had really just one good notable season. That was in 2018 with the Jets, where he had 5 sacks, 33 total quarterback pressures during the entire season. He also had a pretty solid season when the Jets decided to use him as more of a rotational player, more of a role player rather than setting him up as an every down linebacker. But for some reason, they decided to change that up. And in 2019, they really bumped that up for him, which is where he seriously started to struggle. So if the Patriots were to sign him, the big thing would be that he's not going to be an every down linebacker. I think one of the big things here with Brandon Copeland too is that the Jets just did not use him the right way at all, okay? Like I mentioned, he's more of a rotational linebacker. They didn't do that. They decided to play him way more than they should have. They also did not use him as the type of linebacker he is. He's going to be more of an inside linebacker, guy who can play the edge and rush the passer. But again, that's not what the Jets did. They only had him rush the quarterback about 57 times. This past season, they really demoted him from being a pass rushing, setting the edge type of linebacker and put him more into coverage. And yeah, he can't do that. He gets toasted in coverage. So if they did sign him, this would be more of like a Dante Hightower type of guy, a guy who is more of your run stopping, blitzing, setting the edge, getting to the quarterback type of guy. He's a guy that certainly holds his own when he's set in the correct area, again, that being a stopping the run or setting the edge type of linebacker. He's able to read schemes really well. He's very disciplined and just overall has a very good manner when it comes to that. Looking at the type of season he had, he's definitely going to be a guy that not a lot of people are going to look at. Not a lot of teams are going to be bringing him in for workouts, trying to sign him. So he's going to be a pretty cheap guy. And if the Patriots are able to utilize him the right way, they're able to get at least a 2018 version of him, then they're 100% going to get a bargain. His projected cost is only expected to be about $1 to $3 million per year. So this would be a pretty great signing by the Patriots. Don't give him really any high guaranteed money. If things don't work out during training camp, then have the ability in his contract to cut him. But that is going to be 5 under-the-radar players hitting free agency that the New England Patriots could look into. What are your guys' thoughts on them? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys did like this video, let me know in the comments below and tell me if you would like a part 2 of this video. If you did enjoy this video and you would like a part 2, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel for all your New England Patriots content. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.